Well, welcome back to another episode of the Cruise Conversations podcast. I'm Michael.
And I'm Frank.
And today's episode is episode number 90, and we're sitting down with Jeremy, the cruising bear, to talk about his recent Carnival Firenze sailing. Let's jump into it. Well, a pretty exciting week here, Frank, for the podcast.
It is.
And the vlogs. We finally got the MSC vlog scheduled to come out this Friday.
Yes, it looks amazing. Michael, you were on board the MSC Seashore doing an overnight in Ocean Cay.
Yep.
It's an awesome vlog, so make sure that you're following along on YouTube. You can subscribe so that as soon as that thing drops on Friday, kick off your weekend with a nice little cruise video.
And like we said at the start, Frank, today we have Jeremy back on the podcast. Like we said, talking about a new cruise ship for him. He sailed out of LA on the Carnival Firenze. This is actually a Vista class ship. You know, it's a subclass. They call it the Venice class. And I'm excited to hear about the ship. You know, I think this one was built in 2019. You had the Venezia, which is on the East Coast here, that does some time up in New York and then comes down to Canaveral for the winter. I don't know. I'm super excited to hear about this ship.
Well, as we mentioned at the top, this week we brought our guest, Jeremy, the cruising bear, back on. Jeremy, welcome back onto the podcast.
Always fun to be back. I think I probably just came off a cruise, which is always good.
Jeremy, you've gone, how many cruises have you got on this year so far? This is 2, 3?
This one is, well, this year, this is my first one this year.
Okay.
Because I went 2 right at the end of this. So that's 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 1 of 5 so far.
Okay. You got 5 cruises. That means more podcasts with Jeremy coming up this year. We're excited about that. Jeremy, this was a different cruise for you because it started out of LA. This was a 5-night on Carnival Firenze, going to Cabo San Lucas as well as Ensenada. So we're excited to kind of talk about that, hear your thoughts, especially your travel getting to the port. So that's probably a good place to start. How was it getting to the port of LA and kind of the process? A little bit different, obviously, than being able to cruise out of your backyard in Houston.
My cruise left on a Thursday, so we flew out Wednesday after work. I worked most of the day. It was kind of hectic because we had our little blue tape walkthrough. So I had to leave work early, go to that. We went right from there to the airport. So, you get a flight to LA. LA is just a giant, giant airport. It's almost like a small city. I got off the plane. I had to wait for our bus to get to baggage claim. You get your bag, you go outside. We found out we can't catch an Uber from the actual airport. The airport's so busy, you have to go out of town. I mean, out of the airport on a bus to get to the place where you catch, ride shares. So it was kind of a mess. It took us, I'd say, almost an hour, over an hour to just get off the plane, get our bag, and then get out to the other spot for to catch a ride. And then it was about a 40-minute drive because it's such a big area, and the Carnival sails out of Long Beach, and it can be it's a little bit of a drive. So we stayed about 35, 40 minutes outside of LAX on the way to Long Beach.
All right, so let's take a step back for a second. Like Frank mentioned at the start, most of the times you cruise out of Texas. What made you want to sail the Carnival Firenze out of LA?
I've seen a lot on those Italian ships. I saw a couple of reviews on. They look pretty cool, different feel. I've never sailed out of LA, so going to Cabo and Ensenada is it's a different places. I've never been there. Never been to the West Coast before. So I mean, I had a good casino deal, so we booked it. Thought we'd give it a shot.
No, that sounds great. I mean, some of those casino deals make it really tough. It's like you're like, all right, I'll go on this ship and check it out for very little money. So that's awesome that you're able to take advantage of that. I know we're taking advantage of one later on this year. So let's talk about the embarkation process. I've actually heard that some people say that LA was one of the slower ports to board. How was your experience with getting on board the Firenze in LA?
I agree. We woke up. We had about a 15, 20 minute ride on the Uber to get to the Long Beach port. We get there, and right as we get through, it stops, and no one knows why it stops. It just stopped. I don't know if they're having just too busy getting people on and off or whatever. But we sat there, and you have like 30 minutes to get in and out without having to pay parking. And our Uber driver was scared because we sat there for so long that they were going to charge him for sitting there for too long. So after about 20 minutes, finally got in. They let us. We get out. We get to do our check-in process. The actual check-in process went fine, went smooth. But they have, I mean, it's Carnival and it's Carnival. I'm not sure if it's the same. My last Carnival was like 3 or 4 years ago, so I know they brought dogs in. So once you get through the check-in process, you wait after you go through security, and you set all your bags down. You step back, and there's three dogs that come through, and they all smell your bags to make sure there's no drugs or anything of the sort. And that takes, I mean, it probably takes 4 or 5 minutes for a line of customers, and you probably do 20, 25 customers at a time. So, we went through 3 or 4 people before us before we went through. We got there early. So we had to wait about 30, 45 minutes before we got on the ship. And then it's a long, long walk. You're going winding around, up and down and around, and you get the thing. You have to hold on to your boarding pass and show it like at 5 different places. It's a much different situation than the last few I've been on, where it's such an easy, smooth get on. It was a little bit of I wouldn't call it hard or bad. It's just it's kind of the way it used to be like 10 years ago. And I mean, they still have facial recognition, but it still took a long time. A little myth to how come it took so long.
Yeah, that dog process seems interesting through security, Jeremy, because I know my last Carnival cruise on the Celebration, they had dogs there, like in the terminal, like as you were getting ready to go through the detectors and all that, but they didn't like stop at everyone's bags. It was kind of like, you see like some of the dogs outside of amusement parks or stuff kind of just going up
Or an
and down,
airport.
or at the airport, kind of like that. So yeah, real interesting that, like you said, they were stopping. It would take 4 or 5 minutes for per group of people. But all right, so you made it through security now. What were your first impressions when you walked down the Carnival Firenze?
How beautiful! I mean, I've said, like I said, this is my seventh or eighth carnival, and my I think it was my I've toured some ships. It was like my ninth carnival ship to be on, and it's honestly very unique. It is. It's a carnival ship, and they have some stuff, but it didn't have the whale tail. It's got the old Coast to Sea on there, but the inside, man, is just gorgeous. It's a whole different ball game than the normal. I mean, not that carnival ships are ugly or anything, but it's just different. I mean, it's got a whole. They really go overboard in the Italian feel, and doesn't feel crazy that they went overboard on it. It all works.
And like Jeremy mentioned, so if you don't know anything about the Carnival Firenze, like Jeremy said, it came from the Costa brand, and originally I think sailed out of the Asia market. I think.
It was made for the Asian market, but I guess COVID came, and I don't think they ever really sailed in the Asian market. So then I
Okay.
guess they sold these to well, they sold it to, considering Carnival owns Costa and Carnival, but I guess sold it to Carnival, and they took their time with the Venezia and the Firenze to s- the I guess I mean, whatever they do for Carnival, I guess. So
Jeremy, what was the first thing? So you said the ship was beautiful. I'm sure you checked out the ship. What was kind of the first thing you guys did when you got on board?
mustard. That's what everybody does, right? You're supposed to, at least. You want to get mustard knocked out. So we run in there. I mean, we were walked in right next to where our mustard was. It worked great. In the theater, their muster on Carnival is you walk into a spot, they wait for a small group, explain how to use the life vest, like one other thing, and they let you go. You're in there for like 3 minutes. So, we go finish muster. And we were kind of early on the ship. We were because my sister is platinum on there, so we got through. We were kind of priority embarkation, so we hustled up to the to Lido deck, and it was it's different. It's I mean it's technically a Vista class ship, but it's not really. Like we go up the elevators, we get out, and you're walking what's normally an outdoor part, but it's a covered pool area, and it's beautiful. I mean, they have like almost like balconies up there. Um, it's very Italian minutes, and they have the we went right to guys, and they have a couple. They have like a pizza burger on there, I guess for the
Oh wow.
Italian, and they don't have a blue iguana. They have Tomodoro, which was basically blue iguana. I think they serve like one Italian dish, but it's Italian mixed with I mean, it's Mexican food, but it's pretty much blue iguana. We grabbed a little burger and then ran aside, saw what the buffet was about, and scarfed that down. Then we went to continue to board the ship.
Did you try that pizza burger?
I did. First thing I got. It was
Okay.
okay. It was okay. I mean, as far as guys burgers goes, this I don't know why it seemed like lacking a little bit, or I don't know. It just didn't seem as good as usual. I guess I don't know. It wasn't bad, but guys is normally pretty much the gold standard for burgers at sea. And this was good, but it wasn't. I don't know. It was just the burger itself. I didn't get a lot of them. I think I only had two burgers the entire time. But.
All right, so like you mentioned, your sister's platinum. So I'm sure you were probably either able to drop like some luggage off at the room early before you could get into the rooms, maybe.
No, I mean there was a platinum waiting area for platinum suite guests,
Okay.
but we weren't allowed to drop our bags off. No, we were
Okay.
still bringing around our carry-ons.
So at some point you were able to get into your room. What type of room did y'all book, and what did you think of the room?
So we actually booked a balcony room on the Lido deck. It's forward. It was forward. Forward of the aft elevator, or forward of the forward elevator. So it was almost all the way forward. And I was my first time ever staying on Lido deck. I was a little curious how it would be. Would crowds bother me? But I actually really loved being that close to the buffet and the whole area. 'Cause that area is honestly the best part of the ship to me, especially on this ship. I stayed on the Ruby Princess one time. We stayed aft, and you walk out your door, go up the stairs, and you're right at the Lido. It was almost the same kind of thing. You walk out of our room, you're walking, 40 yards, and we're at the Lido deck pool and the indoor part, and you're right there where all the food is. It was unique, and I'm actually my next sailing is on the Carnival Celebration in 50 days or 7 weeks from today. It's also a Lido deck room, so about to back to back Lido decking. We'll see what that's about. So. But yeah, I like the area. I think I'd stay on the Lido deck again. I don't like forward usually, but it was doable.
Yeah, it's funny. I actually had a client texting this week about like should we do the Lido deck, or I think they were traveling with someone that was a little bit older who wanted to be closer to the things around the ship. So it's hard when you're like with kids that would benefit from being by the buffet. But when you're traveling with someone a little bit older that needs to be closer to like the dining room and some of the things at the lower parts of the ship, it's kind of a struggle. So I mean, if for you it seems like it's really good. I could see where maybe if you have someone who doesn't get around easily, it may be better to be closer to the main dining room or like the centrum part of the ship. But no, that's awesome that you loved your room and you planning on staying on that side of the ship or up on the Lido deck for the celebration cruise. It'll be interesting to see kind of the differences too on like the layout as we get into that one next time. So now let's kind of talk about Sail Away, right? So did they do any different activities for Sail Away? Did they do like their normal carnival Sail Away party, or what was the festivities like during Sail Away?
They do the normal carnival party. It's in that area with the cover pool. I don't normally go to the subway parties. It's a little too hectic for me. So I didn't really partake, but they do have one.
How did you end up spending your sail away?
So we had like it's a new ship, and I've said before the new ships that we generally go top to bottom walking around. And so we had walked part of the top. We had done the bottom decks, the piazza and all that stuff, and we went back up to the Serenity on the very top deck, and it's a wonderful area. There's no pool there. There are some hot tubs, but man, we liked it a lot actually. And they have these swing chairs, and we sat in those and sat on the got a little cabana. They're free as long as they're not occupied. And we sailed away from the Serenity deck there. It was a little cool. It was cool that day, and so once we started going a little bit, we had to stop once we sped up. We watched part of it there, and then we went down. I think it was on 8, and kind of just watched it from the railings over there.
All right, so let's jump into your first stop now of this sailing. It was Cabo St. Lucas. I think, Frank, we were talking before. We've heard some incredible things about this port. How did you end up spending your day in Cabo?
So it was funny. We had a 10% off Viator for February for agents, so we were like, well, we might as well book some excursions. It was like it was the morning of our cruise. We didn't have anything planned for Cabo or Ensenada. We decided to give it a shot, see what was available. We found something that was cheap. I think it was 45 per person or 40 a person for whale watching in Cabo.
Oh wow.
Yeah, we've been whale watching before. We didn't really know what to expect. I hadn't been to Cabo. My sister hadn't been in years. So Cabo is a tender port because the shore is like 15 feet deep, and then it drops like 900 feet deep. So there's no way to make a cruise port there. But it's you pull right up to the bay. It's a 5-minute tender to the port there. You get off, and there's seals everywhere. Seals, sea lions, whatever. They're just lounging like on top of each other and barking and making noises. It's awesome. I mean, I haven't seen many of them in my life, and next thing you know, you get off and you're about 20 feet away from like 16 of them all sleeping on each other in the sun, and they're swimming around, jumping up and down. It's great. So we see all the sea lions and seals and all that, and we go to our meeting point for for our excursion. And I kind of say, I guess you kind of get what you pay for. It wasn't a bad excursion, but man, it is hectic in that little marina. There are probably 30 to 40 little boats, and we were on a small boat, all going in and out at the same time, pushing in and out at the same time. It was crazy. I mean, you think they would bump into each other, but the guys are really good. They know what they're doing. But you're going out and you're going alongside like four or five boats all leaving at the same time. Boats come in
Oh
all
wow.
different sizes. It was a little hectic. I wouldn't call it scary, but it was hectic. But it's cool because then it's right there at the end of the Baja Peninsula. And one side inside Cabo is the Sea of Cortez, and the other side is the Pacific Ocean. So they take you close to the shoreline, and you see the arch, and you see a little beach that connects both sides. I think they call it Divorce Beach because one time a year, it gets covered, and the Sea Cortez and the Pacific Ocean touch, and then after like a week, it breaks apart again. So I think they call it Lovers Beach, and I think they call that the divorce or something like that. I can't remember all the details. And then they take you to the Arch. It was a really cool little thing. The problem being, there's 20 little boats there, and they're shuffling back and forth and in and out, and you're rocking pretty good. And so everybody's trying to get a picture. You're trying to walk at the front of the boat to get a picture, and it wasn't ideal. They have bigger boats that get in there, but it was crazy. We go around, start looking whale watching. There was a pod of three whales, and there's probably 15 ships out there looking for whales. If you're lucky, they came up near you. We saw them come up like four times. One time I was fairly close, not super close. I got a nice little video of it. And you spent most of the time. I mean, we probably spent a minute and a half seeing whales, and probably about 45 minutes looking for whales, looking at water. Our guides were great. They were knowledgeable. They were funny. But it kind of ran out, and they're like, you guys want to go back, or you want to go to?" But like everybody's just take us back.
Do you think it's one of those things where it's like based on the time of year too? Like it could be really, really good in certain months. Like I know, like certain times of year, like in Hawaii and stuff, you see more whales. Is it similar to that where like maybe it's an off month or how what what? How,
No, February's supposed to be a pink month.
okay,
It's
okay.
supposed to be that time of year, before they go up to Alaska in June, May and June. So we were kind of excited, but I mean, you can't really. I mean, there was one pod with three whales. I mean, the next day there could have been 12 whales there. You never know, you know. But it's a little different area than the whale watching in Alaska. Whale watching in Alaska is a big difference than that. Way more organized. The boats are more made for it. So, I mean, it is what it is. It wasn't a bad excursion. We paid $40 a person, so it's not like we paid through the nose and barely saw anything. We saw whales. It was still pretty cool. The seeing all the rocks, and it was a good time. Then we get back off there, and so the pier or the marina there, it makes like a big U-turn. You get off and you walk down. There's some shops, and you get on the backside, and there's more shops, and there's a lot of places to eat. And the mist in the morning, or it kind of burned away. And it was a beautiful sunny day. It was like low 80s with a breeze. I mean, just completely sunny and beautiful. And it would have been a good day to sit there. They have these bars that look over the marina. It was awesome. It was a beautiful day. So we were shopping and looking around, and then my sister was looking to buy flavored tequilas, because they have a lot of flavored tequilas there in Cabo. And we found this place. It was called I think a Tequila Lighthouse,
Oh wow.
and they went in. I'm not a big tequila guy, so they went in the testo. I'm looking around shopping, and then they call me in there, and they really want me to try this almond and cherry tequila. It tastes like amaretto, and I like amaretto. So I tasted it. I'm like, man, that's really good. So then we tried a peanut butter one. I tried a chocolate one, and a few minutes later, we have as a group we have like 12 bottles of tequila.
Oh my.
So we bought a lot. Next hit was the guy who helped us out, man. He was super friendly, super knowledgeable. Tequila Lighthouse is a really cool place, man. It's a roundabout. And it's got so many different flavors of tequila. Yeah, I would say if you're gonna go Cabo, it's right there at the port. Swing by the Tequila Lighthouse and check it out. But yeah, it was a not a fun walk back carrying all those full bottles of tequila.
And then the cruise line like stores them for you, right, until you get off, and then you have to go pick them up kind of on that last day.
Yeah, so we get back to the port, we check them all in, they give you a little thing. We thought it was going to be the night before. That seems like it makes sense, so you can pack, but it's not. You pick them up the morning of debarkation. When you're bringing that much liquor, we were going to let our bags get taken off because we had a 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock flight. So we end up having to, carry our bags off ourselves. So we need to pack them. We need to pack them well. We had a little bit of a weight problem because 11 bottles of liquor can add to your weight really really quick.
Yeah,
So we got back, we got them wrapped up pretty good. But we got up at 6 o'clock in the morning and went down there to go get all our confiscated stuff. And I saw many USB speakers and what's it called Bluetooth speakers there because they're banned on Carnival. They swiped a bunch of them up. So
that's crazy. I know Michael's not too happy about that one.
I see their point of view, man. I've been there. We were on one of my earlier Carnival cruises. This guy had a huge speaker, and he played. They sat right at the inside of the buffet, right by the pool on the inside, and they played their music as loud as they possibly could, and you could hear it through the entire buffet. No one stopped them. No one told them anything else.
Those are the people that ruin it for like the people like us who just want to listen to a casual song in the room that we're not like a
Exactly. Yeah. Like I don't. I'm not, never using it out on the ship. I'm just using it quietly in my room as I'm getting ready.
yeah.
Yep. Now you gotta use your horrible iPhone speaker.
Exactly. All right, so let's move on to Ensenada. What did you guys end up doing on your last port stop?
So I had always thought Ensenada was kind of a throwaway port. They stop there because it's close. Um, when you pull into it, I mean, it was really, really hazy, so we couldn't really see very well out there. It's just another thing we had booked that same morning. We booked our Cabo one. We looked and we knew nothing about it, and we saw a place called La Bufadora, which is it's the blowhole. It's kind of far away. You need a ride out there. So we booked one, $40 a person. Private tour, $40 a person. They meet you right outside the cruise port. Some of the guys can get in, some of them can't. They can't. It's probably about a 5-minute walk to get out of the cruise port. It's no farther than getting out of a cruise, going to get a taxi in Cozumel, which is kind of a walk. It's about the same length. So we meet him right outside there. He calls us like early in the morning to make sure we're still going, make sure he knows where to meet us. The big white building right outside. Just meet me in front of that. Very nice. We get there. My sister wants to check out Pepe, which is it's a marine reserve, and it's not what we were planning to do. We were supposed to go to Bufador. He takes you there and kind of guides you around and brings you back. But Brian, Bryan, this was with the Ensenada Tours. He was super accommodating. He's like, well, not only can I take you there, I used to work at Pepe, so I can take you there, and I can give you all the little ins and outs of what to do. So he's taking us through town. He's explaining the town. He's super nice. He's funny. He was going to bring us to get breakfast tacos. We're from South Texas, so we've had not only Tex-Mex, we've had real Mexican food before. So he gets mostly people who have only ever had Tex-Mex, and sometimes Northern Tex-Mex as well. But he was going to have bring us to get some breakfast tacos we had already eaten. So he takes us out to Pepe and he tells us, listen, you got to the best thing to do is pay $75 and do the big cat experience. The big cat experience is 35 bucks just to get into the park anyway, then all the little things you can add on. So $75 to give you the big cat experience, which puts you in a little, I guess their little enclosure with a live adult big cat. And I'm nervous. I'm like, I'm gonna do it. I guess I get talked into. I wasn't gonna do it, and my sister's like, "You got to do it. You got to do it once in a lifetime." And the people there and Brian, they're like, "You got to do this." So I'll do it. It came with a couple other things, you could do. See some farm animals. You can tour the whole space. So we're walking around, and they have this little hedgehog they show us, and you can hold on to. And so we walk around, and we say, "Well, where is this thing at?" We go in there. And first they let's go to the monkeys and you feed these monkeys and they're sitting on your shoulder. I mean, I've done that in Rotan, you can do that. And they bring us around and they have these panthers, these panthers that are black and jaguars and they have these lions and a this tiger and a white tiger. But we get into this cage with a jaguar. And he was super interested in what I had in my pockets. I had my wallet in my left little cargo pant pocket, and I had my sunglasses in my right. And he immediately comes up and starts sniffing my pockets, and he grabs onto my sunglasses with his teeth, and he won't stop. I'm scared he's going to break my sunglasses, first of all, which were my second pair for the cruise. Broke my first one on the way there, had to buy some in Cabo. So he's grabbing onto him, pulling onto him, and they kind of get him away. He's super playful, but I mean, he's a big cat. Super playful is cool in a little cat, but not in a big cat. So I'm super nervous. We're petting him though. I mean, I'm petting a jaguar, a jaguar. It's crazy. He goes around the back, and my friend forgot, turn your back on, and he jumped up and put his paws on her shoulders from the back, and I'm like freaking out. He didn't do anything. He just jumped up playing around, and then he decided to go after my wallet, and he actually grabbed it. And I have a picture of it. He's pulling my wallet, kind
Oh
of pull
my
it out of the
gosh.
inside of my pants, and the guy kept knocking his face away. And he was just, I mean, he was playful, rolling around on the ground. We did that for about 5 minutes, and they're like, "You done with it?" Yeah, I think I've had enough of that. Just to be sure. But man, it was super cool. It was awesome. We leave there, we go around, we see hippos, two adult hippos, which are again extremely dangerous creatures. But he's just sitting there with his head resting on the thing, just staring at me, giant hippo head. I was like, "Oh, that's adorable. It shouldn't be, but it is." We decided to pay extra to feed them, and they take you around a little closer to them, and you have these bales of hay. You just throw them in their mouth, and I'm throwing. He's like 5 feet away. I'm throwing this big giant hippo mouth feeding this
Oh
big
my
hippo.
gosh.
Yeah, and then we went around. We fed and got to pet and hug giraffes. And there was a bunch of other. You could pay $30 and play with a baby lion or a baby jaguar. There's so many things to do there. Pepe in itself, you could spend an entire day there. And this was just a quick stop for us. We stayed there about I think 2 hours, and we finished with all that. I mean, it's already a great day. And he takes us to the La Bufadora, and it's a little bit of a drive out there. And he's telling us, saying this is why I would recommend Brian and Ensenada tours, because he's telling us, listen, you get there, the Bufadora is a place where the ocean comes in and kind of crashes in and creates a big spray up, and it's gorgeous. But he says, leading down to that, there's like 50 shops on either side. He goes, and they're going to try and get you to buy everything. I mean, if you've ever been to Mexico before, it's kind of the same way. And they're just trying to get you to buy. He's like, don't tell them your name. He said, oh, remember it. And he goes, these guys are really good. Don't go for the first price. He's giving us all the little tips. He's like, when I get out there, I can't say anything. I'm going to tell you everything right here, right now. So he takes us out there, and it came in handy. We walked down there. There's tons of stuff. There are so many. I probably had two full churros just in samples of churros. So they have so many samples to eat. It was great. But they have a lot of great food, and smells are great. And then we come to this. My sister's shopping, and we come to this little parking lot with the people that work there park, and it's just and there it is. I mean, they're in the Pacific Ocean, and it's crashing into all these rocks on the Baja Peninsula. I'm like, oh man, this is really this is really gorgeous. I could have sat there, used something because all the sound drives away, and all you can hear is the waves crashing into the rocks. And I was like, oh, this is a little slice of heaven. I could have sat there for hours.
Was it really crowded there?
It was crowded. It was crowded, but not where you couldn't move around. And it was crazy. So it was really crowded going down there. And I guess we got there a little later since we had stopped. Then we go all the way down to the end. We see the spray, and we spend a long time there taking videos and pictures. And it's unique. It's cool. I do it again. And then we're coming back up, and it's almost deserted. There's barely anybody out there. I was like, wow, I guess we got here late. But we walked all the way up there and walked back up and did a little more shopping. We get our ride back, and Brian takes us to a place, and it's authentic, Mexican tacos, and man, they were good. I
That is awesome.
I am sad I don't have those tacos in my life because they were good. We get back to the ship, hour and a half to spare. There was traffic, and he still made sure he got us back. He was really aware of the traffic, really aware of the time. I can't say enough how wonderful he made our experience. It's if you want to email him, it's Ensenada Tours 646 at gmail.com. Brian, Bryan, that's who our tour guide was. You can book it through Viator, but you can also book it directly with them. If you're going on any cruise going to Ensenada, I would say call him. If you have a party of 8, they get you a bus or a van. And if you have a party of 2, they take you in a car. It's always going to be just you. They're not going to have anybody else in there with you who aren't part of your party. It is a straight up private tour. They're knowledgeable. They know what they're doing. They give you good information. They take care of you. It was a great excursion.
How much did you say this one was, Jeremy?
Like $44 a person.
That seems like a really good deal for a private tour, honestly.
It is, and like you don't have to buy anything in Bufadora. If you just go to La Bufadora, he takes you down there. It's still a fun experience to see a beautiful spot, and it is a drive. It's like a 44-minute drive or 30-minute drive out of town. And then just for the knowledge alone, you go to Pepe, you're still paying to get in there. It's not that $40. You're just paying for the ride. It's air conditioned. It's knowledgeable. It's fun. It was a good time. My sister and I want to go back. We want to bring people we know with us. I want to bring Lori down there, and I want to do it with everybody.
I was about to say, because you said at the start you thought this was kind of just going to be like the throwaway port, and it sounds like listening to both your days, it sounded like this is the day you did like the most.
It was, man. I mean, Cabo was great, and maybe it was just our excursion didn't hit home. But Ensenada, again, I'd always thought it was a throwaway port, Ensenada and Cabo. No one really talks about Ensenada over Cabo San Lucas or Puerto Vallarta or Masalan or anything like that. So I was shocked, and I was thrilled. I mean, I was like, wow, Ensenada is not a throwaway port. I mean, if you go there a lot, I guess. I have a friend that lives in LA, and he does the Ensenada Cabo cruise a lot, and he doesn't do anything in Ensenada. And I kind of maybe went off his a little bit too much, and I never heard anybody talk about Ensenada. So I was super happy.
Awesome. Well, let's turn to your sea days now. This itinerary had 2 full sea days on it. What did your typical sea day look like? How were the crowds around the ship? And what did you spend your sea days doing?
Um, we played games. We found some cool spots to sit in. The Serenity is it's nice, but you can't really go there during well on this cruise because it was too cold. The wind just made it too cold outside. That was pretty much most sea days. You couldn't really be outside too much because it was still cool out there at this time of year, and just when you're going, it's just too chilly. You can be out there as long as you're clothed for it, but especially if the sun wasn't out, it was just too much. So we spent most of our time inside. We played some games, hit the casino a lot. I mean, that's what we do.
Gave back that free cruise money.
You got to do it somehow. Gotta get my next free cruise is what I got to be
Exactly.
working on. So yeah, so we had a really good time. The casino was nice, spacious, nice variety of game. They have a small non-smoking casino, but I mean we s- we did some trivia. Just the little spots, man. I've been on the Vista twice, and I've toured the Dream, and I've been on the Breeze. I've been on the Magic. I've been on the Legend. I've been on a couple other ones too. I've toured the Jubilee. This was super unique. If you've been on Carnival and you haven't been on anything like this, it is a Vista class, technically a Vista class ship, and there were certain times I could see the Vista in it, but all their spaces were so incredibly cool. It was warm and inviting. It was beautiful. It was our fifth day, and we're like, man, I want to do this ship again, or the Venezia. That's how beautiful the ship is, especially the area by the pool, the upstairs area. I can't really talk about it and give it justice because I watched video tours of the Firenze and the Venezia, and it didn't do justice. That's how beautiful the ship is. It really is. As for a ship that wasn't really built recently, it's not the modern decor, which is normally what I like. Man, it's awesome. So we spent a lot of time walking around, seeing little spaces in the bottom. We did some trivia. Didn't really do any shows on this one. I tried to do comedy club, but it was too late. When we got there, it was packed. The crowds can build up in some spots. The trivia was pretty packed, and the Limelight Lounge was packed. The pool gets packed. The pool areas get kind of packed, especially in the aft pool. But I mean, if you can avoid those or do it, just find the spots. There's plenty to do.
Did you feel like the crowds were noticeably worse from your last cruise? I think you said you were on Sun Princess, right?
This cruise ship only holds it in the 3,000 range, whereas that one holds in the 6,000 range. It's not like it's double the size or anything. So in the buffet, you can see some crowds, and it's like everything. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
think I've ever been to a buffet ever that didn't have a crowd in it,
Right, right.
especially at peak times. And people, you get the one guy who smooth slow through the whole line and backs everybody up. Long line. If you've been on Carnival, there's long lines at Blue Iguana, Tomodoro. There's long lines they had a chicken place. It wasn't Shack's Chicken. They had a chicken place. Long line at the pizza. Long line at the burger shop. They move fast, so don't worry about it too much. But I mean, it was pretty much where you expect to see the crowds.
Well, speaking of food, I think you just gave us the perfect transition into food, Jeremy. Let's talk about some of the food you had on the ship. Where did you find yourself eating your breakfast, lunch, and dinners on the ship? And what did you think of the food overall on the Carnival Firenze?
So breakfast, we did a dining room one time. On demarcation day. We did the buffet a couple times. Did Blue Iguana once. So I kind of hit all the spots you can really do for breakfast. I mean, Blue Iguana it's Tomodoro, not too Blue Iguana, but it is. It's what it is. It's good. It's a good breakfast. I like it. I enjoy it. Dining room breakfast was good, better than a buffet. Buffet's got a lot of choices, but it's kind of a steam table. So eggs, they're a little runny, but if you can get through that, find the things you want, it's about what you expect from a cruise line breakfast. Lunches, we kind of did all the same things. They have an outdoor, on the Vista class ships, they have the Pig and Anchor. They have a similar place outside there, a little more Italian style, a little more European food. It was good as well. We tried that for lunch one day. Did a lot of buffet for lunch and did some pizza and stuff. For dinner, we did the dining room the first night. The last night, we did bonsai sushi, which I always assumed was just sushi, and I was wrong. It's an a la carte place where you don't pay one fee to get in. It's got different prices, and we had a $60 voucher, and we all ate until we were full. Great food, and it covered the entire thing.
Wow.
I was shocked at how good the prices were versus how good the food is. I'd always shied away from Bonsai Sushi, and that will never happen again. It was an eye opener. I had a smaller cut of filet mignon, and it was so cheap compared to what you would find at other steakhouses. It was really, really good. I don't eat sushi. I don't eat seafood or like that, but there was plenty for me to eat there. I had edamame for my appetizer and had that, and my sister had another dish with some other steaks. So we enjoyed it. Everybody enjoyed it. We ate. That was probably the best meal I had of the whole cruise. Obviously, specialty dining. But I will never skip Bonsai Sushi again, especially if you look for a cheaper version of specialty dining.
You said you did dining room first night and then bonsai sushi the last night. What about the other nights on board?
We just did buffet.
Okay.
Two of the nights we didn't really like what we saw on the menu for the dining room. We always check out the menu first. If there's one or two things, we kind of just skip it because it's kind of a long process to get dressed up and go down there to eat like one thing you really want to try. They'll most likely be on the buffet as well. So we kind of skipped a couple nights of that. And then one night, I think it was Cabo. We had eaten a really late lunch because we got back late and we were not hungry at dinner, so we didn't go to the dining room. Even though the dining room looked good that night, we didn't go that night. So we kind of didn't really eat dinner that night. I kind of really like buffet dinner.
What did you think of the quality of the buffet during dinner time? Did you see a lot of overlap with the main dining room, or were there some other options as well?
Pretty much everything on the main dining room for dinner was on the buffet. So this is a very small choice of buffet. I mean, if you go on a royal class princess ship, they have a ton of choices. The Windjammers always have a ton of choices. The Vista class ships have never really had a huge variety in their buffet, but they have Tomodoro, they have the chicken place, they have pizza, they have the burger, the guys burgers, they have pig and anchor. So you get a big difference, a big selection that way. And then they have a smaller buffet, a smaller choice of buffet. And that's probably the only problem with the buffet is they just only have a few choices. You're not getting a giant selection. But the food, as far as the food quality, I'm going to say it's on par with what you're going to find at a buffet for every other cruise line. Anybody who goes out there and tries to tell me that their buffet food's better, if it's better, it's marginally better. And I think it goes cruise to cruise or personal preference of what you eat. I've never been on a buffet where I couldn't find anything to eat that I didn't
Yeah.
like or didn't actually enjoy. So, it was average buffet cruise food.
Yeah. No, I think that makes sense. Same. I mean, we were on what was it, Lure a few weeks back, and man, it's like yeah, there's just so many options. It's like if you can't find something here, like you are the problem. I mean, I feel like we said that before. It's like there's sandwiches, there's meats, there's Indian food, there's all cuisines. It's just tough to really find something that you don't like. If you're picky, that's kind of the place. One that I just had chicken tenders. I was like, yeah, this is good. Like wouldn't order that in the main
That's
dining room, but sometimes just you want a chicken tender or two.
what
You
you
know?
want. I,
So that's
I,
awesome.
I, I I try to tell people the same thing. I mean, it sucks because it's food wasting. But if you go to the buffet and you grab something and you don't like it, that's why I kind of grab it. You try to grab a big variety. Don't, kind of grab everything you like. And then if you find something you really like, go back and finish. Don't eat everything. If you grab something, you take a bite, you're like, man, it's all right. Don't eat it. Find something else to eat. Don't fill up on something that you don't really like that much and tell everybody the food was terrible. Just don't eat it, and then find something else to eat and maybe wait in line 5 minutes again, but at least you had a better meal.
Dang, Jeremy, it sounds like you've been on the Facebook blogs too much lately, listening to all these people complaining.
I've seen it, I've heard it, I've heard people talking in the buffet. I've heard, I mean, just after 24 cruises, you kind of hear a lot of the same stuff, and telling you, just don't eat. My sister told me this my very first cruise. If you pick something up and you start eating it and you don't like it, don't waste it. Don't like waste your appetite on something that's just blah. Find something that you really like and eat that. And then don't complain about the food later on. No one's gonna put a gun to your head and say you had to finish what you took. We're not at your mom's house. Your mom made you eat everything on your plate. That's not what's happening here. You can eat anything you want to eat.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I agree. So I think you gave a good review of the food. Let's move on to some of the other add-ons on board. So I don't know if you ended up buying a Wi-Fi package or a drink package, or you added on spa or anything like that. If you did, how was your experience with those items on the Firenze?
We did not add on spa because we looked at it. There was just there's not really it's really non-existent. There's really not much there. So I don't think they even have one actually, a thermal suite. So we didn't do that. We didn't have a drink package because we had free drinks in the casino with our casino deal. So while you're playing in the casino, you get free drinks. That's enough for us. I did get the Wi-Fi. I got the top level Wi-Fi. Worked great. I texted. We sent pictures back and forth. There are some Wi-Fi's when you disconnect and let somebody else connect to it, you can kind of still message back and forth. Carnival's Wi-Fi does not do that. If you once you're disconnected from it, you are signed out and you cannot get anything done. So there are some NCL does it, and I think Royals did the same
Yeah,
way.
Royals. I think it's a glitch. I mean, obviously they probably don't want that to happen, but they're trying to figure out how they can fix that so they can actually charge you for texting. I would imagine they don't want that to work.
Sure, I mean the Wi-Fi is way overpriced on ships right now. They for as much as they're not really they're probably making money hand over fist on Wi-Fi. Honestly, it's kind of sickening when you think about it. But that's one of the things that really make me upset is the prices of the Wi-Fi and what you get for it. But I got it. It was solid the whole time. It worked great. I didn't have any dropouts. I could stream stuff. I could stream music. I could stream podcasts. I could, send videos and send pictures. The videos went slow, but that was about it. But it worked fine. Good Wi-Fi.
All right, so moving on to some of the entertainment in the evenings on the ship, Jeremy. I know you said you didn't see as many shows, but how about like I know you're into live music. Did you get to see any of that around the ship?
Yeah, we did. We saw some. We did. Yeah, I'm not a song and dance fan. I'm not a big musical show thing. That's just not for me. It's gonna have to really blow me away, so I kind of avoid them. But live music, playing, covers and stuff like that, I enjoy it. Their piazza is an open, three-story thing, like a lot of ships are. By the stairs, they have a little inlet where they have people play. They go in, they're playing. They have a trio. They're doing a violin of modern songs. They have people singing modern songs there. The twosome singing, good music, good times. You can sit all the way around and see everything. It was good. It was a nice experience, man. I didn't really do a lot of nightlife on the lower decks. This was further after the ship. We didn't really do a lot of that because we were in the casino. And we watched the music there. We played some games around the ship in quieter areas. So I didn't experience much on those. We did mostly during the day stuff there, trivia and some of the activities around there. But yeah, we did see some live music, and it was good live music. It was a good time.
Well, the live music that you saw around the ship sounds great, Jeremy. Another thing I know in the evening on this ship, I know the Terraza area that you can book rooms into during the days, like a private area for the people staying on in these room types. But in the evening, anybody can access it. Did you end up going to this area and using it at all in the evenings?
We did. We went there, I think, the first night before dinner. So on Carnival ships, they have a place called the Havana. There's the Havana Pub and Bar, and there's the Havana section where the Havana rooms, where you have to have a wristband, and they have a pool and outside deck, and you have to have a wristband and stay in those rooms to be able to access the deck. But the bar, the Havana Bar, just like the Moda Lounge and bar on the Terraza, is open to everybody. You just can't go outside and experience the other stuff. We did go in there. It's a really, really great vibe. Good music in there too. It's a nice place. We didn't get to go outside, obviously. We don't have the wristbands, but it's a kind of a unique experience. There's a small amount of rooms that can only access that. It's got a couple hot tubs and it's got a bar out there by itself, and so you kind of get a kind of a personal feel out there, private deck for those people. So it's not as big as some of the Havana places I've been to, especially the Havana stuff on the new XL class ships. But I mean, it looked like a nice area from what I could see. And the bar, the Motor Bar and Lounge it was a nice place.
That sounds awesome. This kind of goes a little bit with that question, but let's talk about the ship layout and kind of how it is different from some of the other Carnival ships that you've been on. Specifically, I know you talked about the Dream class, Vista class. How would you say that this ship compares, like if you could choose, to only sail on some of the older Carnival ships that you've been on versus the Firenze? Which one do you think you would prefer based on the ship layout?
I mean, I know some people hate the Vista class layout. This one, I believe, was made in the. I know they made some Vista class ships at Carnival for all their brands. They were different. They weren't exactly carbon copies. I believe this is made in that same Vista kind of layout. And like I said, I could see that in some parts. I mean, the problem is there's dining rooms that are on the lower decks. It's pretty much just the lower deck of the dining room that you can't get forward and back from. And sometimes the upper decks, the very top deck. For the rest of the port, it flows pretty nice. I mean, you go up and down, you can see where you're at. I just, it's a nice layout. I didn't have any problems with it. Actually maybe found it a little easier to get around than the Carnival Vista that I was on. So maybe it was a little easier than that. But I think it's also maybe a little smaller. I can't really tell. It's been a couple years since I've been on the Vista. But layout, no problem.
Gotcha, gotcha. How about the service on the ship? How did the service compare to some of your past Carnival cruises?
On par and good service. Carnival's, I never had a problem with Carnival service. You'll run into an employee who's not great. We had a little issue our first night. There were three of us in a room. Our guy never came into our room the first night, didn't introduce himself. He left our beds together. We needed separated beds. He never made up our couch bed. And then something our toilet stopped working. So we left a note for him and we got in. I got back at 10 o'clock and nothing was done. So I had to go down, get services, tell them what happened. I go back up. They fix the toilet immediately. My room guy never comes. So I go back down again. They say, yeah, I'll be up there in 5 minutes. Go back up. Never came back up. Hour 15 minutes later, he finally comes up. Somehow, some way, he kept trying to tell us it was only a two-person room. We're like, no, I mean, clearly it's not. We have three people in here. I booked the room myself. I know what kind of room this is. So there was that miscommunication. He wasn't unfriendly, just some sort of miscommunication. After that, no problems. I didn't see him a lot. Every once in a while, you'll have a guy you just don't see much. But he took care of everything else we needed. Guest services were friendly, although we had that problem. They were still friendly. They didn't stew me away. They weren't rude about it. So any problems that we had were well taken care of. The casino host was a little hurt, I'd say. She was a little quick to try and dismiss you for everything you asked her. That may have been my only issue, but it was really wasn't much. The waiters were great, and we had a good time.
Well, that sounds amazing. And of course, at some point, 5 nights go by pretty quickly. Your cruise had to come to an end. How was the disembarkation process at the port of LA?
So we walked off, but we didn't walk off early in the morning. Again, we had to get up early in the morning and go get our liquor and then repack. We got up, we went to the dining room, went back, got our bags, made our way down. It was hectic. Debarkation is always pretty hectic, unless you wait till really late, which I've done recently. It's kind of a tough thing. So we get off the ship. We wait in a while in line, getting the elevators. These have the exterior button push on the elevators. You press a button, go to W, and you go to W. So you get inside the elevator, you don't know where you're going. As experienced cruisers, even in this situation, all the elevators are gonna go down to three. Sometimes you're gonna go up and go down. It's the same thing on embarkation day. You gotta go down and go up. Just get in the elevator, it's got space, and you'll eventually get back to where you need to go. And we couldn't get the elevator down because they were all full. We ended up going up two floors, then going back down, and we got off the ship. The line moved fairly quick. It wasn't that bad. But again, getting out of there was a much longer process than everything else I've been on. Don't know why it took so long, but it was kind of a long process.
Well, overall, Jeremy, when it came to the service, the dining, the itinerary of this cruise, how would you compare the sailing on the Carnival Firenze compared to some of the other cruises you've done in the past?
Well, the biggest knock is it was only 5 nights and not seven, so that's the biggest knock on it. I really, I don't. 5 night cruises go by too fast. I don't know about you, but normally on a cruise for me, until you hit your first stop. I mean, when you go to Galveston, it's generally sea day, and then you get three stops. Once you hit that first stop, it seems like they all start flying by. It's always like that for me. The first sea day goes by really, really slow, and the next thing you know, they just start flying by. And the same thing, we hit Cabo. Next thing I blinked, and my cruise is over. That's generally the telltale sign of a good cruise. As far as like Carnival cruises go, it was near the top of my Carnival cruise list. We had a small crowd. I've been on some with big crowds, and normally you go with a big group. It's a fun time. Um, I didn't have my girlfriend there, which is always a bummer. I didn't have my kids there, which is always a bummer. I was with my sister and our friend, which is, it's a big plus. I love sailing with them. So, I mean, there could have been things that from personally made it better for me. But as far as Carnival, it was one of my favorite ones because it's honestly ships I've sailed on. It is my favorite Carnival ship, and we had such a good time at both ports that even with the Cabo whale watching not being great, we still had a great time at the port. And we got back on the ship and went up to Serenity and hung out for the beautiful views. It was a wonderful day. So I mean, we had a great time. It ranks probably near the top of all my Carnival cruises. and it was a highly thought of. In my 24 cruises, it definitely is a bottom. Is in bottom half.
Wow. That's awesome. That's a great review. I feel like people are really going to be at home or in their car listening and enjoying this review, Jeremy, because it is. It's like a ship that is kind of it's different for the Carnival brand, right? And maybe different can scare some people because it's not the traditional what you're used to. So I think this is really helpful for people just to know that you've sailed some of their traditional cruise ships and that this is something that really stacks up high on the list. So, and also you've got the celebration coming up soon. So we are personally excited to hear what you think about that one. And again, compare it to what you thought of the Firenze, because these will be pretty fresh. It'll be pretty fresh in your mind, you know, the experience you had on board the past couple weeks, and then now going forward to a much larger ship, more people, but, you know, different itinerary. So it'll be interesting to compare.
It's going to be a massive difference. I mean, a giant XL class ship versus a smaller Italian Vista class ship. It's going to be very, very different experience, and I'm really looking forward to it. I'm ready for it. It was exciting to do this review. Excited to go on this cruise. I've got a client. My guy Chris is going on the same ship this summer. He found me because he's a wonderful listener of this show, and he actually booked it like a month before I went out. I told him, "Hey man, I'm going to give you a full review. Listen to the podcast. I'll go deeper into it." So, Chris, this one's for you.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Jeremy, thank you again so much for coming on. And again, we'll be in touch over the next couple of weeks to hear about your next cruise, of course, on the celebration. So thank you again for jumping on here, and we'll talk soon.
Always wonderful to be here. Thank you.
Well, that's going to wrap up this week's episode. Jeremy, thank you so much again for coming on and doing this interview. It's super exciting just to hear about this beautiful ship that Carnival has sailing out of California. If you are interested in booking a cruise, we'd love to have you be a client of ours. You can text us at 704-313-8556. You can fill out the JOT form in the description of this episode, or you can shoot us an email at cruiseconversations@gmail.com. We did have a couple of weeks where we had a Q&A section, so if you do have a question, anything about cruising or a topic that you'd like to see, let us know. You can DM us on social media at Cruise Conversations. Again, you can email us. But we're super excited about what's to come. We've got a lot of great episodes coming up. Make sure you stay tuned for the vlog coming out this Friday. Go ahead and subscribe to YouTube. Get yourself ready to watch that this weekend. And with that, we'll see you back here next Wednesday.